Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into some research that you shared about alcohol and cancer risk.
Okay.
And it seems like you really want to understand kind of the implications of this new report from the U.S. Surgeon General,
Right.
claiming that alcohol increases the risk of at least 7 types of cancer,
Yeah.
and calling for warning labels on alcoholic beverages just like cigarettes. All this is based on a March 2025 article from Nature titled Alcohol and Cancer Risk, What You Need to Know.
Okay.
Now, this link between alcohol and cancer isn't exactly breaking news, is it?
No, not at all.
So we're going to unpack why this is such a hot topic right now.
Right. Well, what's fascinating here is that scientists first labeled alcohol a carcinogen over 35 years ago.
Oh, wow.
The evidence has only grown stronger since then, but the real debate and where things get a bit murky is around the risks of moderate drinking.
Okay.
How do those risks compare to any potential heart health benefits?
Yeah.
That's what trips a lot of people up.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of us have heard about, that glass of red wine a day being good for you.
Right.
So how have scientists been studying this link between alcohol and cancer?
Well, researchers have used several different approaches to build their case.
Okay.
Some of the most important are large-scale cohort studies.
Okay.
These track huge groups of people over many years to see how their drinking habits correlate with cancer rates.
That sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Is there anything that might complicate these studies?
Absolutely. One of the biggest challenges is controlling for what we call confounding factors.
Okay.
For instance, people who drink heavily are also more likely to smoke,
Right.
which is obviously a major risk factor for cancer.
Of course.
So teasing apart the independent effects of alcohol can be tricky.
Yeah.
Some studies use alcohol sales data to adjust for people underreporting their alcohol intake
Oh, interesting.
to get a more accurate picture of actual consumption.
Okay.
But even with those adjustments, there are still limitations to what these studies can tell us.
I see. So it's not as simple as just asking people how much they drink.
No, definitely not.
What other types of research have helped kind of shed light on this link?
Well, animal and lab studies have been crucial for understanding the biological mechanisms at play.
Right.
They've helped explain how alcohol can damage cells and lead to cancer.
So this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
The article mentions how the ethanol in alcoholic drinks breaks down into a toxic substance called acetaldehyde.
Right, and acetaldehyde can damage DNA. That's essentially the blueprint of our cells.
Yeah.
When DNA gets damaged, it can lead to uncontrolled cell growth. In other words, cancer.
In other words, cancer.
Exactly. So we've got these large cohort studies showing an association between drinking and cancer.
Right.
And we've got lab studies revealing how alcohol can damage cells at a fundamental level.
Right.
It seems like there's a lot of evidence pointing in the same direction.
But how do scientists weigh all of that evidence?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's got to be some organizations that try to make sense of all this research, right?
You're absolutely right, there are. And when you look at the evidence as a whole, 2 highly respected sources have reached very clear conclusions.
Okay, let's hear about them.
The first is the International Agency for Research on Cancer, or IARC.
IRC.
They're part of the World Health Organization, and they classify alcohol alongside tobacco smoke and asbestos as definitively carcinogenic to humans.
Wow. That's some pretty serious company.
Yes, it is. That's their highest risk category.
Okay.
The other source is the Global Cancer Update Program.
Okay.
They conduct incredibly thorough reviews of all the available research and bring together panels of experts to determine how strong the evidence is.
I'm guessing they came to a similar conclusion.
They did. They concluded that there is strong evidence that alcohol increases the risk of several types of cancer.
So both of these organizations are essentially saying that the link between alcohol and cancer is undeniable.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so we know alcohol can cause cancer, but can you be more specific? Which cancers are we talking about?
The research has definitively linked alcohol to at least 7 types of cancer.
That's a lot. Which ones are they?
They are mouth, throat, voice box, esophagus, breast cancer in women, colorectal, and liver cancer.
Well, that's certainly a sobering list.
Yeah.
Let's talk numbers. How much does alcohol actually increase your risk of developing these cancers? What are the stats?
The Surgeon General's report uses data from a large study to show that for women who drink very little or not at all, about 17 out of every 100 will develop one of these cancers in their lifetime.
Right.
For men, it's about 10 out of every 100.
So 17% of women and 10% of men who don't drink much will still develop one of these cancers.
Right. That's what we call the absolute lifetime risk.
Okay, so that's the baseline risk. What happens when you add alcohol to the mix?
If you have an average of 2 alcoholic drinks per day, that risk jumps to 22 out of 100 for women and 13 out of 100 for men.
So we're talking about a 22% risk for women and a 13% risk for men.
Exactly.
So 2 drinks per day increases a woman's risk by an additional 5% and a man's risk by 3%.
You got it. And it's important to remember that breast cancer accounts for a significant portion of those extra cases in women.
All right, we're starting to get a clearer picture of the overall risk here. But the question I'm sure everyone is wondering is, how much is too much?
Right.
Is there a tipping point where the risk really starts to climb?
That's where things get even more complex. But we'll dive into that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. We'll be back shortly to dig a little deeper into this.
Okay.
All right, see you soon.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're back. And I'm really curious to learn more about this tipping point idea when it comes to alcohol and cancer risk.
Right.
But first, I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
What about all the claims that moderate drinking might actually be good for you,
Right.
especially when it comes to heart health?
Yeah.
I feel like we hear that all the time.
Yeah, you're right. It is a common belief. There has been research suggesting that moderate alcohol consumption could be associated with a lower risk of certain heart conditions.
All right.
But we have to be really careful about how we interpret those findings.
So what's the evidence behind these supposed heart-healthy effects?
Well, some studies have shown that moderate drinkers may have higher levels of good cholesterol,
Okay.
or what's called HDL cholesterol, which is known to help protect against heart disease. There's also been some research suggesting that moderate drinking might reduce blood clotting and inflammation,
Okay.
both of which can contribute to heart problems.
So there are some possible explanations for why alcohol might have a protective effect.
Right.
But how strong is that evidence?
Well, that's the tricky part. Many of the studies that have found a link between moderate drinking and better heart health were observational.
Okay.
That means they can show a correlation, but they can't prove that moderate drinking is actually the cause.
Right.
It's entirely possible that other factors like lifestyle choices or genetics are driving those differences.
So correlation doesn't equal causation, as they say.
Exactly.
But let's say for argument's sake that there is a real protective effect. How do we balance that with the increased cancer risk we've been talking about?
Right. Well, that's the million-dollar question, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Sure.
The risks and benefits probably vary from person to person depending on their individual factors. Things like family history, overall health status, and of course, how much alcohol they're actually drinking.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like personalized advice is key here.
Absolutely. And that's why it's crucial to talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
They can help you assess your individual risk factors and make informed decisions about your alcohol consumption.
It sounds like we're talking about personalized medicine, which seems to be a growing trend these days.
It is.
But besides all the individual factors, aren't there some bigger picture societal implications we should think about too?
Definitely. I think the Surgeon General's call for warning labels on alcoholic beverages is a great example. It reflects a growing concern about the public health impact of alcohol consumption.
It's a bold move, and I'm sure it's created some controversy.
Well, absolutely. The alcohol industry has pushed back pretty hard against the idea of warning labels, claiming they're unnecessary and alarmist. They point to the potential heart health benefits we discussed and emphasize personal responsibility and moderation.
But I'm guessing public health advocates have a different perspective.
Exactly. They argue that warning labels are crucial for letting consumers know about the risks, especially the link to cancer, which many people are unaware of. They believe these labels could help reduce alcohol consumption and ultimately save lives.
So it's a classic public health battle with strong arguments on both sides.
It is, and it's likely to continue for some time.
This really is a fascinating case study in how science, public policy, and industry interests all come together.
Yeah, it is.
But for the average listener, it seems like this all comes down to making choices about their health.
I agree, and that starts with understanding the risks and benefits, which is what we've been exploring in this deep dive.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
We've covered the cancer risk. We've talked about the potential heart benefits. And we've acknowledged the debate around moderate drinking.
Yes.
What's the key message for our listener?
I think the most important takeaway is that awareness is key. Understanding the risks associated with alcohol, even at moderate levels, empowers you to make choices that align with your own personal health goals.
So it's about being informed And then making choices that feel right for you.
Precisely. And if you're unsure about what's right for you, talk to your doctor.
Right.
They can give you personalized advice based on your own situation.
That's great advice. For those who want to learn more, we've included links to all the sources we've discussed in the show notes.
Great.
You can check those out to explore the research in more detail, learn about specific types of cancer, or delve deeper into this whole debate about moderate drinking and its effects.
You're absolutely right. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And the more you understand about the complex relationship between alcohol and your health, the better prepared you'll be to make informed decisions.
Now, here's something to think about as we wrap up this part of the deep dive.
Okay.
Given everything we've talked about, what level of risk are you personally comfortable with?
Right.
It's a question worth considering as you think about your own relationship with alcohol.
It is. We'll be back in a bit to explore this a little further.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into alcohol and cancer risk.
Oh,
This has been a pretty dense topic, hasn't it?
it has.
But I feel like we've learned a lot. What do you think?
I agree. It's definitely a topic that deserves careful thought.
Yeah, it really does. We've covered a lot of ground, the scientific research,
Right.
the statistics, the controversies, even the societal implications.
Yeah.
Now let's bring it all home and talk about what this all means for you, the listener.
Yes, ultimately, understanding the research is important, but the real power is in applying this knowledge to your own life
Right.
and making informed choices.
I like that.
Yeah.
So let's get practical. What are some concrete steps that you can take based on everything we've talked about?
Well, the first step is awareness. We've established that alcohol is a proven carcinogen.
Right.
And even moderate drinking can increase your risk of developing certain cancers.
Right. That's a great starting point. Just knowing the facts can motivate you to make changes.
Yeah.
So what comes next?
Well, you could start by reevaluating your drinking habits. Ask yourself some questions like, how much am I actually drinking?
Yeah.
Why am I drinking? Are there other ways I can relax, socialize, or unwind without alcohol?
Those are all great questions to consider. And for those who are maybe worried about their drinking, there are tons of resources available to help them cut back or quit.
You're right, there are support groups, therapy options.
Yes.
Even apps that can help you track your drinking and stay motivated, of course. Your doctor can also provide guidance and connect you with the right resources.
It's important to remember that you're not alone in this thing. Millions of people struggle with alcohol, and there's absolutely no shame in asking for help.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, I know some listeners might be thinking, wait a minute, what about those heart health benefits?
Right.
Don't those matter?
They do. That's a valid point. But here's the thing. The potential heart benefits of moderate drinking are still being debated.
Yeah.
And the evidence just isn't conclusive.
And we can't forget about those risks we talked about earlier.
Right.
Even if there are some benefits, they have to be weighed against the very real risks, including the increased risk of cancer.
Precisely. It's about making an informed decision based on your individual circumstances and how much risk you're willing to accept.
Yeah.
If you're worried about heart health, there are proven ways to protect your heart that don't involve alcohol.
Right. Things like maintaining a healthy weight, exercising regularly, eating a balanced diet, and not smoking.
All of those lifestyle choices have a much bigger impact on heart health than moderate drinking ever could.
So it sounds like if you're trying to improve your overall health, those basic healthy habits are a much safer and more effective strategy than worrying about whether or not to have a drink.
Exactly.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought. How can you use what you've learned today to live a healthier, more fulfilling life?
That's a great question, and ultimately the answer is different for everyone.
I hope this deep dive has given you the information and tools you need to make informed choices about your health.
Remember, you have the power to take control of your well-being. That starts with being informed and making choices that are right for you and your goals.
Thank you for joining us to this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another interesting topic to explore. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.